is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Oh yeah, that is funny that you mentioned that earlier. I was talking to Seth right before we turned the microphones on that I've started listening to this podcast called My Favorite Murder recently, which is a really popular true crime one. These two young ladies just talk about their favorite serial killer stories or whatever, and they have that same microphone effect. I was telling Seth that someone wrote into their podcast and was like, "What's that gong noise?" I think we managed to edit it out.
Most of them, yeah, but occasionally there's a little like I don't even know what to call it. It's like a lever for turning the screw on the microphone stand. Yeah. And Timber likes to bump it, and it sort of waggles back and forth and makes a wah, 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 wah sound into the microphone.
It's this like spring-loaded boom arm thing that just like clamps to a table to hold the microphone so we don't have to hold them.
They're like those old lamp stands.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah. I think those would usually have like a heavy base instead of a clamp. So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was really nice. Just me and Jules made a duck and mashed potatoes and greens and a bunch of stuff. Drank a bunch of whiskey. Which is part of the reason that this was the first drink I've had since Thanksgiving, because I was just like so dried out at the end of those 2 days.
Yeah, I went and visited my family, and we opened a nice bottle of whiskey and drank a good amount of it. Yeah, it was nice. That was actually the first like really family get together I've had since I've had a big family. Timber's over here being full of antics. He's just like scratching at the ground and then looking at me, and then scratching at the ground and then looking at me. We've been on 2 walks. You've been fed. I played with you. We're going to kick you out if you don't relax.
I hope the microphone picked that up.
Yeah, I was just saying I threw Timber in a car and drove down to Southern Oregon. And
it's cool you had like a real family Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's really been the first time we've ever been on the same coast.
I haven't done that in years.
It's been a long time for me.
Yeah.
You know, I keep going to my like girlfriend's Thanksgivings rather than my own. So it was nice to see my family, and they gave me a few things. You know, I got a little bit of bling by going to visit them.
Nice.
My mom's old laptop, so I'm back in business with that, which is really exciting for me. So it's
Heck
like
yeah.
a 2001 instead of 2011 as opposed to 2008. So it's a little bit newer.
Yeah.
Pretty stoked about it. And then my dad gave me a nice leather jacket that he hasn't worn since the 70s.
Oh yeah, sweet bomber jacket.
Right?
That looks like it got worn like once, probably in 1970, and then just sat. It looks new. I'd have a good time with Jules.
Yeah.
Drank a bunch of whiskey, like I said. We watched the new Stranger Things.
Oh, good.
Which we kept like meaning to marathon and then stalling out.
What'd you think?
It was really good.
Yeah,
I had a good time with it. It's a really cool concept. I love the setting, the like instant nostalgia, that like the opening like 30 seconds, the Stranger Things.
Sure.
I feel like they must have done that on purpose. Like, let's set it when our target audience was growing up.
Well, I mean, you know, there's a reason that 70s show came out about 10 years ago, and we're basically getting that 80s show.
Yeah.
Except
it's science fiction.
Right. Which would make sense for the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, the 70s, what was on TV? Stupid sitcoms. What was on in the 80s?
More really, science fiction stuff.
Good sci-fi and good horror and all the Steven Spielberg stuff. And
oh yeah, the clothes and the kids have the Dungeons and Dragons like monster manual that's been photocopied, and I love that the kids get a lot of their good ideas from Dungeons and Dragons lore. It's like how they figure out. Have you watched through the whole?
Oh yeah. I've seen the whole thing. Hi, Kelsey.
Hey. The holidays bullshit.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we were just bullshitting about the holidays, and it's been, I don't know, 7 months about since we started this podcast, and we've done the Eye of the World, and I don't know, I just wanted to have an episode where we got to sit around and reflect back on all the things that we did and think about the first book and answer any questions people might have.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been 7 months.
Yeah, I think so.
Has it been 7 months?
I looked back at the, because in the beginning we weren't doing 2 episodes a week.
Oh, that's right.
But so now we're at, 7 months. It's crazy. But the good news is the artwork is done, and I'm finally getting buttons and stickers made for everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, to finally send people stuff.
Yeah, I feel like, not that we've been negligent, but that I really wanted to get this done earlier.
Yeah,
but
it's okay. I listen to so many other podcasts, and I feel like we're doing a better job than most.
Fair enough.
And like so many of the cool, nicely produced Radiotopia and NPR podcasts that I listen to and stuff like that, like they send out buttons and stickers, and they have like tens of thousands of donors.
But they also have to send out tens of thousands of stickers.
True. You probably just need an intern to work for a whole month to just do that.
Right. I'm hoping to just send out a few.
Wheel of Time fans are used to waiting.
Yeah, just a little bit. Not as much as Game of Thrones fans, though.
Oh, God. I'm done. I'm just over it.
Man, I was over it a decade ago, all right?
Yeah.
I know.
Done being
Well,
mad.
he just released another post about, like, if I have time, I'm going to finish these things. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. You don't have to finish it.
No, we're good.
I'm fine. I'm over it. It's gone.
Yeah.
The show's going to end it and whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's where we all are as readers.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it didn't make people wait too long on that stuff. Mostly, I'm also excited to give them out to people and try and promote the podcast with the merch.
Yeah, I'm just happy that we can give something back.
Yeah. T-shirts. I should think about making up T-shirts.
We should sell some T-shirts.
Yeah. So I looked into Teespring or whatever it was. I wasn't really sure.
Should we go to Jordan Kahn and hawk him in the parking lot?
Out of the back of a white van, maybe?
Yeah.
Who are those creepy guys in the parking lot? I don't know, but they do something spoiler related. It's weird.
I got some Wheel of Time spoilers T-shirts for you.
Just like that.
Only $5 and a kiss.
Come on, kid. You know you want it. I'll give you the sticker for free.
The
Have to rent a windowless van just for that. They're only $25 a day or something.
That's true, yeah. I'm sure you could just pick them up in Atlanta. No problem.
But make sure the paint is peeling.
Yeah. That definitely helps. The other thing that helps is having stains all over it and a bumper that's kind of falling off, but tied on a little bit. So I did actually reserve rooms in Atlanta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When is Jordan Kahn again?
420 to
Oh, right.
423.
How do I keep forgetting that? Hey, Kelsey, are you trying to go to Jordan Kahn?
Sadly, no.
Oh.
I want to. I'm hoping to defend my dissertation that month, if all things go well.
Well, I guess if you have to have an adult life.
It's been so long coming. But I guess the consolation prize is that if that doesn't happen, then I could potentially swing it depending on how stressful things are. Lots of things up in the air. So probably no,
Fair enough.
but maybe 2019.
Cool. And that's in half a year. I can definitely plan that.
Yeah. But I figured we should get in on the booked rooms because they were a much cheaper rate than anything that I could find.
Yeah. Did you just like find something near? Is it at like a convention center?
There's like a reserved chunk of rooms for people who are at the con.
Gotcha. I've never been to Atlanta.
Me neither. This will be a first for both of us.
I've only been to like rural Georgia where there's nothing good to look at except for nature. I was there for backpacking. That's it.
Beautiful place. Shame about the people.
But yeah, I only stopped in like 2 little towns. That was like the highlight was like a Walmart and a gas station that sold liquor.
Nice.
Or yeah, that was like all that was. I mean, where I was,
Right.
It's just like a motel, a Walmart, and a gas station.
I mean, it's basically the town I lived in Virginia. It was out Waynesboro, Virginia, about halfway between there and here.
I stayed in Waynesboro for a couple days.
Yeah, I remember that being really funny. I think it was when I lived there too, right?
I think we might have established that once.
That it was like over, like before we ever knew each other, we were in the same town. Like
there was like a church that like opened up their basement to Appalachian Trail hikers.
Sure.
So when you're coming through town, they just let you can sleep in the basement.
Awesome.
I do remember that they were a little finicky about, a lot of backpackers wander into their hostel drunk in the middle of the night, and they weren't too fond of that. But there's not really a lot you can do about
drunk
backpackers.
Yeah.
It's just what you do. What else? There's nothing else to do in Waynesboro.
That's very, very true.
I'm trying to remember anything else about the town. I don't really. I think there was a Chinese buffet.
Yep.
Which we definitely hit up. I don't remember anything else. I think we probably bought beer at a gas station and sat in like a park and drank it. That's usually it's pretty standard fare.
I have memories.
Yeah,
not many of them are fond.
Portland's nice.
Portland's really nice.
Glad I live here now.
The weather today is gorgeous.
Do you mean like dark and rainy?
It was sunny and cold today.
Yeah?
Yeah. It didn't rain at all.
Oh, well, I don't know. It was drizzling a little when I
okay. I missed that. That's what happens when you spend all day in an office. You miss the weather.
Hey. Sorry. I've got 2 dogs who are about to fight over a toy. You guys, hey, be
so
nice.
This
Chula,
share.
Yelling at your dog's podcast today, apparently.
You're being mean.
Because Timber was being pretty bad.
Yeah, they're really cute, though.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a brindle mix, and then my friend and I are puppy sitting a mutt that we found on the street named Chalupa Batman. We
Did you name it Chalupa Batman?
Well, yeah. I mean, she's not my dog,
feel like
but
I know
her full
so
name
much
is
more
Chalupa
about
Batman.
It's
not my dog. My dog is Ruben, who was named at the shelter, but Ruben really likes to chew toys, and Chula gets really upset when Ruben chews her toys. And they started growling.
I took Timber down to my parents, and they have a dog they're fostering for aid to the deaf. And so there's some organization, I can't remember the exact name of it.
Yeah, don't they operate out of Boring?
Yes. And so they're fostering a puppy. And so Timber got to go hang out with a puppy. And for the most part, they got to run around and chase, but he did get a little bit of the neck biting, and that kind of pissed Timber off because the puppy kept like digging his sharp teeth right into his jowls, and he was like, that's annoying. Stop that.
Hanging off his jowls.
Totally. Timber doesn't really have any jowls, so he was not happy about that at all. But the rest of the time, they were just playing and running, and it was great.
Oh, that's nice. I used to work for a couple when I was a kid that did that. There's one in Morristown, New Jersey. That's like a Seeing Eye training center or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think they just call it the Seeing Eye there. I think the program works the same all across the country, where they don't want to train the dogs until they're, I forget, like over a year old or something like that.
Right.
So they foster, they do the breeding program, and then they foster them out to families to raise until they're however old. Yeah. And then
That's awesome.
I remember that at least in that program, they get first dibs if the dog fails. The seeing eye training, and they had one that had failed because it was afraid of like loud noises, particularly thunder and lightning. It would like run and hide.
Sure.
It was otherwise a perfectly trained, well-mannered dog.
I bet my parents are hoping that they have a foster failure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, probably only, I have no idea what percentage, but I'm sure most don't pass.
Really, you think
it's
so?
Pretty rigorous, tough. They've got to focus all that time.
They breed for it, though, don't they?
Yeah, but I can't imagine that it's like easy.
Sure. Sure.
Like that dog that couple had failed because it's afraid of thunder.
Right. There could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, I have to do something I've been neglecting for a while.
Huh.
I have to thank some patrons.
Oh, yeah. I think we got... How many did we get over the last 2 weeks? A good handful.
More than 10, less than 30. Last week was Thanksgiving, so I didn't get a chance to do it then. And I think I skipped it the week before. So it's been probably 4 episodes or so since I've had a chance to thank them.
Gotcha.
So I am falling behind on that because the help has not stopped rolling in. It's not like people are slowing down or...
It feels pretty steady.
It does feel very steady. So it's just been fun to watch that growth.
It's continuing to grow. Like we may actually be able to do well. I don't know what I'm saying.
Okay. Just that every month we seem to get another group of patrons who are helping us out, and I know a trend line when I see one, and this one makes me pretty damn happy.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say. So I'm going to start with Neil Williams. This is back in November 16th. Pledged the full $20.
Thank you very much, Neil.
I Dream of Stars pledged. Alistair Barnes pledged a couple bucks.
Thank you, Alistair. We appreciate you.
Colton Guyman jumped up a level. Always nice to see someone who still appreciates us.
Always appreciated. That happens a lot. A surprising amount.
That's a good chunk of where I think the jumps come from is people who come back to us.
People upping the ante.
Yeah. Speaking of which, John Hunt jumped up a little bit to the highest level.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
I'm consistently surprised by that people care about what we're doing.
Still happy about it, though. Gemma Murray.
Appreciate you, Gemma.
Now, here's a name that looks familiar to me. Donald Heiler.
Thanks, Dad.
It's like I've seen that last name somewhere before. Thanks, Patrick's dad. Oh, man, you were turning a beautiful shade of red. Torbjorn Carlson. It's got some umlauts on there, so I'm not so sure about the pronunciation.
Thank you, Tor. Is it Bjorn?
Bjorn.
Bjorn.
Josh Heffley. Can you tell I'm not any good at names?
We're terrible at this, but thank you, Josh.
Thank you. Adria Farmer, who I actually emailed a few times. Good to speak with you.
Adria?
Aradia? Aradia?
Thank you, Miss Farmer. Miss, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Christine Rice upped her pledge. And Marguerite Havgar.
You guys are all awesome, and like we always say, it makes this whole thing worth it and keeps us going.
And I also want to say, we've had some just great feedback on our emails, just people continually send positive messages and tell us how much they love it. And that's just been really, really great.
Yeah, every week now there's at least a handful of emails of people just saying thank you, which is awesome.
I'm glad you guys like what we're doing.
We'd probably be doing it anyway, just with less dedication. And
I'd be like, Patrick, are you coming over? You'd be like, no, I want to hang out with my girlfriend this week. So that's it for the patrons. I don't really have a lot of corrections. Haven't really been getting...
Yeah?
Yeah. We should send people back to the Reddit because we've been posting summaries on Reddit, and that's a good way to sort of communicate with us about each chapter.
And keep everything organized.
Yeah. So I do still post on wotspoilers.reddit.com. So come check us out there and have a conversation there.
Yeah, check out our subreddit, guys.
Yeah. We also spend a lot of time, of course, talking with our Discord folks. Unfortunately, that is just patron only. There's a great conversation going on there. Like today, my phone was just going off all day because I was sitting at work and I kept reading. I have it set to vibrate.
I don't even have the app on my phone. I'm going to do it right now.
And yeah, I just was following along with the conversation all day, really enjoying myself. And I was supposed to be working, so I didn't do a lot of replying, but definitely enjoyed reading it. Kelsey, you were participating in that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I was also at work. But yeah, we were sharing a lot of our work. So if you guys are patrons and want to hop on the Discord, like sometimes we share photos of different artwork we find or ask questions about characters or make fun of, Nynaeve tugging on her braids. So full of good stuff.
Well, and I just love seeing people, have a conversation there.
Yeah, it's cool that it's like a place that people hang out.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it just adds to the whole community feel that I feel like is going on.
Yeah. There's dozens of you.
Dozens. Yeah, like today, I asked the important question of if I was the only one who liked the circus. So you two can weigh in on...
Do you mean like the real world?
No, like the Wheel of Time circus sequence.
Okay.
that everyone hates.
It's like the circus. That's an interesting thing to be
circus.
into. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, I love anything having to do with Tuan.
That's a good point.
Well, she was a part of the circus when Matt met up with Luca.
Yeah.
So there's those two distinct circus scenes. There's one Nynaeve and Elaine and Tom, and they go up and they...
I think that's the more controversial sequence because I like the plot that happens, but a lot of people don't think a lot of plot happens, and arguably Nynaeve is not on her best behavior. So...
What don't people like about it?
There's not a lot of action that happens, and they're not really moving that fast, and... It's one of those scenes where if you probably took it out of the book, nothing would really change.
Fair.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just one of those scenes where people it really feels like he's kind of padding the books out a little bit with it at that point. But that being said, I love it.
I haven't reread that part in a long time, but I feel like I enjoyed it. I guess I always think of Matt and Tuan, though.
Yeah.
Which is later.
Yeah.
But I enjoy I enjoy Elaine up on the high wire. I enjoy her sort of playing around with the whole, figuring it out with using a platform of air, and then but she can't do that for the actual performance, so she just goes for it.
Yeah. I like it too.
Yeah. And Nynaeve is clearly an attractive person, and she's dealing with this unwanted attention, and she wants, she's clearly in love with Lan, but she's got this other kind of attractive dude who's flirting with her, but she thinks it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about relationships, and, as we've talked about before, there's a lot of vitriol around the women, and this is all about the women.
I mean, I feel like I could think of some scenes or parts with Matt or Perrin or whatever male characters that are just mostly useless scenes. I guess, but there's usually more violence. Which,
there's that. I think people are See, I also like the character development aspect of the characters worrying about their relationships and other people. I like that aspect of it. I don't always need battle sequences, but I mean, I get the arguments about some of these, chapters and plot lines in the series that, again, are probably not super necessary. Most of the listeners are probably super fans, so if you're a super fan, you probably like it for the most part.
I am interested to see what people would think. Give us, email us or talk about it on our subreddit.
Yeah.
Let's do a poll. How do you feel about the circus? I know that the Wheel of Time specific subreddit is pretty harsh on it.
It definitely is.
Enigma votes yes to the circus.
I mean, I'm just of the opinion of, like, give me more Wheel of Time. The more, the better, you know? And I think that there's some people who just want to get on with it.
It can't all be like battle and torture and crazy Forsaken stuff happening.
Yeah.
In a huge epic series, there has to be like setup and how characters get from one place to another, and
right. And just growing
otherwise,
up.
Robert Jordan could have just written The Last Battle, which would have been cool by itself.
Sure.
But it's even more epic once you've already read 10,000 pages to get there,
Right.
or whatever it is.
You know, and like sometimes the characters go through kind of boring times to get through to their exciting action, and I don't know, they're growing up, right? Like they're kids, they're 16 to 25-year-olds trying to figure out life.
In that regard, I think they are very well behaved considering the circumstances.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Do you know what I was doing when I was 18 to 22?
Dicking around.
Yeah. How'd you know?
Lucky guess. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, they go through a lot, and it starts in the eye of the world.
Drunk for most of those 4 years. I worked and went to the bar.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I did.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
And it starts in the eye of the world.
No, but The Eye of the World was, I mean, it's such a wonderful book filled with so much foreshadowing. It's where everything starts. You know, it's the introduction of the characters, but it's also, in a lot of ways, because it's got so much great foreshadowing in it, it makes the ending that much more epic.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think we were being asked, like, how much do you think Robert Jordan had planned out ahead of time? And how much do you think he was
What was
ad-libbing?
interesting about the Brandon Sanderson signing is someone asked him how difficult foreshadowing is. And he said that it's actually not as difficult as you would think, because you can be as vague as you want and kind of fill it in as you need to. Like, it gives you liberty as an author. And so I think...
So you can leave some hooks.
Right. So, like, on the one hand, Min's visions, almost all of them become fulfilled. And a lot of them she just mentions, like, right when we meet her. So, on the one hand, like, that was planned out way in advance. On the other hand, some of her visions are super vague, and so that gives the author, like, liberties to, you know, manipulate the story as it's needed.
I always thought the one who follows after was a failed prophecy. That he, like, put that in there and then, like, just didn't have anything to do with it.
Was that talking about the Sword of Kalimdor?
Yeah.
Because there's that one Ashaman who, like, it's the one who draws it out will follow after or something like that. And because he sticks it back in the stone. And it's like Narishma or some random...
I think it's Narishma.
Ashaman.
Or, he makes Narishma go grab it. Like, he teaches him...
Because Rand left a bunch of traps or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a shit job for Narishma, because he's like, you almost killed me.
Yeah.
That was way more complicated than you made it seem. And Rand's like,
well,
whatever.
Yeah. Darth Rand back in that.
Yeah, he was kind of, hey.
Darth Rand. I just learned that people call that phase Darth Rand recently. I think there was something on the subreddit, on Wheel of Time subreddit, like, I don't know, a day or two ago that I ran into, where people were breaking down the phases of Rand. Did you see that one?
I did.
Post?
Did
you see that, Kelsey?
Darth Rand and Jesus Rand. I don't know if I saw that post specifically, but yeah, I've seen that on the subreddit.
I think they broke it down like Farm Boy, Dragon Reborn, Darth Rand, Jesus.
Yeah.
Or Zen Rand.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Zen Rand.
Yeah, I don't like the Jesus Rand.
That's probably personal.
I think
on
of
both our
more
parts.
like
I think there
cool.
are.
I like that.
there's strong Jesus allusions.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like the leaving for 3 days, the wounds in his side.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, well, the 3 days thing, the wound in the side thing is a pretty prevalent thing, and because doesn't Odin get stabbed in the side when he's up on the tree of life?
And there's Prometheus, who gets his liver eaten by the vultures.
Yeah, but the 3 day thing, that's really a Zoroaster / Jesus thing.
Well, and the being reborn and actually being, God put into the creator in a human body. There's a ton of Christian allegory through the entire series. And there's no doubt that Rand is a Jesus figure.
Every time I go to Powell's to walk around for whatever reason, I see Neil Gaiman's new-ish book, Norse Mythology. Is that what it's called? Something like that? Been meaning to read it. I'm pretty sure it's just him talking about how different mythology plays into all these different fictions, how he does it. I don't know if you guys out there have read American Gods, but that's a great book.
I actually just went through it recently. Listened to the audiobook.
It's a fun one.
Yeah.
I really like it.
It's he likes to wax romantic about America.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really appeal to me.
Yeah, I guess. I see where you're coming from, but I feel like I can come from either side there.
I like his stories, but the fact that they're placed in modern day society, sometimes I like fantastic societies.
I feel you.
I like being somewhere else. I don't necessarily like being in the place I'm in. So
Neil Gaiman, if you're out there and listening, you should come on our podcast sometime.
Neil Gaiman, I
Don't laugh
love
that
Sandman. He's definitely listening.
Take us seriously.
He's definitely listening.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sup?
He's a huge fan.
Neil? He's a Tamerlane donor.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm
going to choose to believe that he's doing it under a pseudonym.
If at some point we got Sanderson to listen in, I think like we have a shot at someday of him like being like, I wonder what this is, and like putting on the first episode and be like, okay.
Didn't you say that when he signed your book, you like mentioned that you do the name of your podcast, and he was like, oh.
Yeah, I had him sign it over to the podcast. Well, I brought up the Legendarium, and he knows the Legendarium.
Gotcha.
So he did not know us.
That's okay. He's busy. He was
Until
writing.
You mentioned it, and now he's also.
He's downloaded every episode.
Clearly, between the time when we saw him and when you saw him in Houston, he binged all of our episodes.
Because it's not like he has anything else to do. It's not like raising a million children and writing a million books.
What else are you going to do when you're flying around the country, walking through airports?
Seriously,
that is a good point.
Stuff.
I listen to podcasts when I'm on an air and flying.
Yeah, I make a point of downloading a bunch too. Do you think he'll be at JordanCon?
Yes.
Almost definitely, right?
I have read that they said he's coming.
Oh, dude, if we have T-shirts by then, we should at least give him a button and a sticker.
Sure. Oh, yeah, totally.
I got some T-shirts
typically we reserve these for people who donate, but guess we'll make an exception since you're such a big fan.
Get in our van. Get in the van, Mr. Sanderson. I really hope if he listens, he does not listen to this episode.
I kind of hope he'll probably think it's funny. I bet he has a good sense of humor.
We'll edit some of that out.
Get in the van, Mr. Sanderson.
That's perfect. We don't need it for. That's why we want to rent the van, not for children. We're just going to kidnap Brandon. Tell me what happens in Stormlight Archive now. What's up with the pipe lighting?
Oh my
Explain
God.
all caps voice.
Who's Nakomi?
Show me the
Tell
notes.
me who Nakomi is. You can't break me.
You can't handle the truth. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I need to get my breath back here for a second.
I am sure he's a cool guy. Oh, it just reminded me. I read a funny, like, fake, like, The Onion type news article recently about George R. Martin's neighbor, while George Martin was sleeping, started building a wall around his house. And after this long back and forth, where every time George Martin left the house, his neighbor would run out onto the front lawn and yell, like, "Why aren't you writing?"
Oh my god. Is that real?
No.
Oh,
Should
you
be.
said it was The Onion. Duh.
It was like a Onion-esque. I don't think it was The Onion.
Satire.
So I sat down today and actually added up all the months between his various books. And it was like, between the first and the second was like...
Was that a dog?
That's Chula getting mad that I'm not petting her. Yeah.
A dog named Chalupa.
I have Chula on my left and Ruben on my right.
So you'll never go hungry.
Exactly.
A Reuben and a Chalupa.
So actually, Chula is a Hurricane Harvey hero. My friend's apartment was completely flooded, and she posted like a picture of Chula on their couch and just like water all around them. And so my friend like carried her into the water, and then they made it to safety, and Chula caught a pigeon. She caught them dinner. She was like, "Never fear, family."
That's awesome. Did he like present it to them?
Oh yeah, she was so proud. She was like, "Look what I got!"
I mean, a pigeon's pretty hard to catch. That's pretty impressive.
I don't know. Have you seen? There's been some fat pigeons out there.
Yeah, I guess.
If Arya can do it with a stick. But yeah, I gotta say, like, the one thing that I have been so surprised about is just how awesome the community has been. I have to throw out John Harrell's name. John has done an absolutely amazing job helping me with the editing. He's taking a first pass at these things. He's doing it on every episode for the past, I don't know, 9 or 10 episodes now. It's been really actually since we had Kelsey on the first time.
That is really awesome.
It's been just an amazing and a huge help. So I can't thank you enough. I really can't. And that's just the kind of help that the community has been offering us all the time.
Like, consistently, too.
Yeah. And I feel bad sometimes where I have to say to people, like,
We don't really have anything for you.
we don't have anything for you, but thank you for your offer of help. And, you know, tons of people would love to be guests. I've definitely had those offers. And I should say, you know, the people that we've had on as guests have been the folks who have shown up in the Discord channel and have just been talking to us and providing great feedback and
Consistently.
yeah. And
I haven't seen John around in a minute.
No.
By around, I mean I haven't seen John on the internet in a minute.
But yeah, I think we wanted to try and have him back at some point. I should send him an email. But yeah, I mean, we had, and then of course just having Kelsey on, and I'm really excited to have you back because you just made me laugh so hard that I forgot what I was saying.
Glad to be here.
We got a lot of compliments on the other episode you were on too, so
Thanks, listeners. Thanks, guys. Talking about Wheel of Time is my favorite thing, so glad to contribute.
And this is just it's been a loose episode. I don't know.
we have no structure set aside
No.
to do we're supposed to be reflecting on the eye of the world, but I think we're just reflecting on becoming podcasters and that adventure, really, which is a lot of what this has been for us. You remember the first time we sat down?
Yeah.
Was that at my place?
No, it was upstairs.
It was upstairs?
Yeah.
Well, okay. One of the first times was at my place. That
Yeah,
was
the
like
first couple of times because we would like we alternated your place and my place a few times,
Oh, yeah.
and then it just made sense to have a setup.
We could still do that, theoretically.
Yeah. I've just got a lot more equipment going on now. Than
Oh, yeah,
than-
that's true. And we have the recording studio.
Right.
Making air quotes.
You mean the egg crates on the walls?
Yeah.
That counts.
Yeah, it totally counts. And I feel like hopefully the quality of the audio has improved a little bit, and certainly the quality of the hosts has improved a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like we're doing a good job.
But Kelsey, you've been around since, I was actually checking back to when you first started commenting on these things. You must have been one of our first listeners.
I think I was, because the release of the podcast coincided right about the first time I finished the series. So I was like, I was trying to consume everything. And so I was like reading all the posts and theories that I had been avoiding because of spoilers. And so then
Cool.
the podcast just kind of came up like probably that same week. And I was like, yes, this is perfect. I don't ever have to leave.
I didn't realize your first read-through was that recently.
Yeah, it was, I discovered it only about a year ago. So I'm a newbie.
How'd you discover the Wheel of Time?
My friend actually recommended it to me. Sup, Laura. She just had a baby, so she's not like a regular listener. But she had mentioned it to me, and I started listening to it on Audible, but the prologue was kind of weird, and I had a hard time focusing. And then I was in a bookstore a couple weeks later, and I saw it, and I was like, I'm going to try this in paperback. And I think it was either Christmas holiday last year or Thanksgiving holiday last year. So I had a good chunk of time to start reading, and pretty much as soon as the Trollocs attacked the two rivers, I was like, oh yeah, I'm hooked.
What in the first book?
Yeah, book one.
So what has it been like? Is this your first reread then?
Yeah, my first reread.
So what has it been like sort of like catching all the little details on your first reread?
That's been pretty cool. So it's hard to distinguish whether I'm catching stuff for the first time on a reread or like reading an article or listening to the podcast. It all kind of blends together. But just seeing things so clearly, like Egwene's death.
I'm nodding over
here. I mean, that's been foreshadowed forever. And even little things like, I think book 2 or 3, when the girls are in the tower and Min is with them, and Egwene mentions that, like, she asks Min, do a viewing of me, and Min, like, always gives her weird looks, and it could mean anything, right? Like, she sees a vision that doesn't make sense. She sees that she becomes the Amyrlin, or she sees her death. Like, it could mean anything, but I kind of felt like it was maybe she saw her death and she just didn't want to see it. Just little stuff like that.
Egwene's death is not something I've seen a lot of foreshadowing for.
I was going to ask, what's the foreshadowing for that?
She sees 2 forks in a road. I think it's a dream. And one is with Gawain, and it leads to their death. And then one is that, or maybe it's specifically Gawain's death, but
yeah, aren't there 2 paths, and one leads to marriage and one leads to one
death? Leads to marriage and one leads to death, but she can't tell which is which and which things line up with which.
Right.
And then there's also like the parallels between her and Queen Alessandra, I think.
Oh, good catch.
Who it's I guess this is relevant to Eye of the World, which is great. When Moraine tells that story,
I never even noticed that the parallel between those two before.
It's like Egwene's death story. Like the Trollocs are coming down on Manetheren, and there's no hope, and she's like bonded to a warder, and the warder, her husband dies, and then
oh my god, it's like the same thing.
Yeah. Like it's like I think she's married to the king, and they're bonded and they're married. And then she like goes down, she like dies by channeling.
Yeah, once her husband dies, she draws in enough power to take out the entire Trolloc army.
Yeah. So some
Pulls
people
an LTT, I like to call it.
What is that?
Pulls an LTT, I like to call it.
Oh yeah. So I've seen theories that she's Alessandra reborn, which would be cool.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna choose to believe that one.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things that you kind of just want to believe it or not.
You'd have to be crazy powerful too.
Yeah.
Seth and I have talked about whatever Alessandra did. We've talked about that before. It might have been in one of the super early episodes, but
Yeah,
It,
that
it
was
looks
right
a
in the
hell of a
beginning.
lot like what Rand does in the stone, but even bigger. When Rand makes like an almost sentient thing out of the power that hunts down the Trollocs.
That hurricane of lightning.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I imagine she's using a little more raw power, just like raw power to wipe them out. Like I imagine they're all in a field, and she just sends out this like gigantic, almost nuclear blast of power that just vaporizes the Trollocs.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because the whole,
I don't think she kills any humans, though.
she levels the city.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's just a flat
Never
plane
mind.
of glass. Like if there were any humans in that city, they died. But they were all in Aemon's field,
Yeah.
which is where he died. But that was far enough away from the city of Manetheren that it was preserved.
I thought Manetheren was... Well, I guess Manetheren was overtaken.
Manetheren is in the Mountains of Mist.
Okay.
The capital is in the mountains.
Right. And the only thing that's left of it is a flat plane of glass because she just wiped it out. And
Yeah.
Aemon's field is the location where Aemon, because it's Aemon's field, where he died.
Right, he was the king.
Right. He was her husband.
It's
Yeah.
like the last stand, forward the hard guard and all that.
Right.
On Alessandra, or whatever it is.
I wonder, is there anyone out there who has dedicated enough time to speak the old tongue? Because I know
There's
that
got to be at least
Someone
one
at
person.
Jordan Con for sure.
I'm sure.
If you're out there,
Listening,
email us.
call us.
I mean, we could painstakingly Google each word, and because there's
There's a list. There's online
aren't there
lists.
pronunciation keys
Sure.
for all the? Yeah, there is.
It's a bit of a limited vocabulary.
Flipping through the just realized I've been pronouncing Myrdral wrong this whole time. It's not Myrdral.
Yes, you have been.
How have you been pronouncing it?
Myrdral.
Myrdral?
Yeah, it's Myrdral.
I'm looking at the
Yeah.
pronunciation keys on the back of the Great Hun right now.
There are definitely people that wish we would have done that a little bit earlier than the end of the book.
Probably. I don't think anyone complained about that one.
Oh, we definitely have had some complaints.
About saying not about me saying Myrdral.
Oh, not Myrdral, but just,
Pronunciation
in
for sure,
general.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we do our best, but man. And then I think I had someone who was telling me
Shepherder
about,
thing.
like, and like the number of times I
Egwene.
said the wrong name in the wrong place.
Oh, sure. But yeah, there's comprehensive pronunciation guides that we don't use.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's a little much.
So I really enjoyed the first couple of episodes we did. I felt they were kind of unique.
Yeah, we haven't really done anything like that since.
And I know we want to. I mean, we've been talking about the notes. You had some computer issues, so you had tons of notes.
Yeah, for sorry, for the next couple lore episodes we're going to come out with. I have the stuff that I emailed you, but
Yeah.
I lost whatever else I was working on, which won't be that hard to put back together.
Right. But it's been hard to do without a computer.
Yeah,
Can't do it on
I
your
haven't
phone.
been working on it.
Right. So I do want to get those recorded and out because I think the lore episodes. I really want to get started on the Great Hunt. I'm already I started reading the Boris chapter and I was like, ooh, lots to talk about in this one.
Oh, so
Oh
good.
yeah, there's so many. I was wondering about all the different the notes that Bors makes about he sees all these different people.
We have to identify as many of them as we can.
I feel like we might be able to get a lot of them.
I think so. Some of them anyway. Or at least make decent guesses.
Yeah. Some may have never been totally revealed.
True.
I think the Tinkers were never revealed.
Tinker Dark Friends? Not
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, there was at least
There's
one
a Tinker. There's one or two.
and there were a few that were probably never some regular peasant folks, and one was Andorran Queensguard, but I feel like we could probably guess that one.
Yeah, doesn't he show up?
He's kind of has a major plot line.
No, wait.
But he's not.
He doesn't show up as a Queen's Guard. She puts
No.
him on the Queen's
He's
Guard.
just a, what is he? He's just a
that's
mercenary
right.
when he shows up?
Yeah, I think he's a mercenary.
Okay.
That sounds right.
The whole point of that scene is just to show Dark Friends in all aspects of society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think he's necessarily showing us individuals that we see at a later time. Except maybe the
Right.
Aes Sedai.
Yeah. That.
I think that's like our first confirmation that there are Black Raja. At least
That's a good point.
what
I
I
think that is our
recall.
first confirmation.
Because there's nothing in the first book about Black sisters. They're
Are they-
Dark Friends.
Are they mentioned? Is it mentioned that there's?
I mean, there's a couple of times where there's one where they're talking about going to Tar Valon, and I think Lan says something about maybe not even Tar Valon being safe.
Oh yeah, but that's not really a. That's not a confirmation.
No,
Right,
definitely
right.
not. But it's sort of the suggestion that there may be Dark Friends in the tower.
Yeah.
Nodding.
And I mean,
I'll
of
buy
course,
that.
Lan knows because New Spring, like, he and Moraine confronted the Black Hotjaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, Lan's just the type of person to not trust anybody. Unless
Oh,
you
yeah.
prove yourself.
There's no safety anywhere for Lan.
Exactly. Oh, that's so sad.
I mean, when your homeland's destroyed, it's got to be hard to feel safe.
And you're raised by soldiers.
Yeah, 5 warriors. They're like,
Yeah.
here's your knife to play with. Have fun, little baby. Don't cut yourself too badly.
Go stab something in the blight.
That must have been a hell of a way to grow up. I mean, a lot like the Aiel, right? They grow up with a spear in their hand from a very young age.
Yeah.
We're a little Fremen child. Running around finishing off the injured after a battle. That's a whole thing
Oh,
in the Fremen society.
in Dune.
Yeah.
Like learn to kill early. Mm-hmm. I'm always amazed that more Aiel. I guess the whole tradition of Guy Shine means a lot of their battles don't end in a lot of bloodshed.
Or that they don't have to.
You mean because they have channelers?
Well, that they prefer to take someone prisoner rather than kill them. There's
Oh,
more
that's
honor
right. That's right.
in taking someone prisoner. So I imagine a lot of the skirmishes between the Aiel aren't necessarily the most. They're probably there's not a lot of blood in those battles.
Have you ever read about counting coup amongst Native Americans?
No.
It was like I don't know a terrible lot about this, and there's a ton of different tribes that all had different cultures. But I do know that amongst some, and their warfare was said to be centered around this thing called counting coup, where you would run up to or run up on an enemy and like slap him with a special stick and like back away. And this was like a whole honor thing where you like hit him and he didn't touch you, or you captured him and didn't without being injured. It wasn't said to be not as much about just slaughtering people as much as it was about like an honor thing. And that may have been, I would like to have read more about this before. I don't want to offend anyone. Like I said, there are tons of cultures, but it was definitely a thing. A thing called a coup stick, where you just like, and the shorter the stick that you touch the enemy with that's trying to kill you without being killed, the more honor you.
It kind of sounds like capture the flag.
It's a shitload like that. There's a whole. I mean, there's a lot of ritualized warfare in different places at different times.
Which makes sense because actual warfare is costly and deadly.
The various Aztec societies had this whole thing called the Flower Wars, where it was just about taking prisoners, just sacrifice to gods. It wasn't about like taking land or dominating as much as it was about like
Human sacrifice.
making the gods happy.
Religion, making people do stupid things since there were people.
As if we needed any ideas. Thanks a lot, God. Yeah, geez. Maybe we should edit out the thanks a lot, God. I know we have plenty of religious listeners. You people out there do whatever you want. I don't care. I don't begrudge anyone.
No. Just don't make me do it.
Right? That's the key.
Yeah.
Edit all that out.
That can all go. Yeah, I don't really know. It's been a fun journey. I've just been amazed how many things I've learned. New things I've learned.
Me too. And theories we've come up with on the fly that now are like my beliefs about different things.
Well, and things I've learned from you and things I've learned from the listeners. And
My favorite theory that you guys came up with was about Min's vision of the darkness versus the specks of light, and then the specks of light is friendship. I mean, that's oversimplified, but like Rand being with his people and like, but it's true for all of them, right? Like, Perrin doesn't do well alone.
no.
We've seen how that goes.
Yeah, the closer they are together, the more powerful they are.
Right. It's like their emotional well-being. I mean, yeah, they're all like super powerful and that helps each other, but they need the support of one another.
With your powers combined, I and the Dragon Reborn.
Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Earth, wind.
So whose heart? That's
Matt?
Matt. I like the question. Well, there is that whole prophecy, like, I hope that the heart of stone remembers love, and
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah.
very much like, I think they go through the 5 different powers, and, I gotta say, Captain Planet has a lot to do with the Wheel of Time.
You know what? And then there's like basically an Ishmael and his weird like girl villain sidekick.
Uh-huh.
Lanfear, hello.
Absolutely. And, I mean, the 5 powers, like, I mean, spirit instead of heart, but come on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they both use that. One of my favorites was Nynaeve shot first.
I didn't subscribe to that one.
Oh,
No?
we came up with that when we were talking about when Perrin and Egwene are captured by the White Cloaks and they're, like, beaten up and tied up in a tent or something, or thrown on the ground, and Nynaeve, Lan, and Moraine go to save them.
Mm-hmm.
And Nynaeve goes and cuts the horse lines so that when Moraine makes a distraction, all the horses will run away and distract the White Cloaks. And there's a moment when
She needs it to happen.
she
She's
needs
saying,
it to happen
please,
right away.
Please happen.
Yeah. Like, give me something, or hurry up, or something like that, and then the lightning explodes out of the sky.
And there's one strike, and then we think there's a delay, and then there's a bunch of other strikes, and we think that first one was Nynaeve, and the rest of them were Moraine.
Yeah, I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced.
Oh, but it's so much fun.
So because we both convinced ourselves. So
It is fun.
Tell us why you're not convinced. I want to know.
So the language, you're absolutely right. Like, and it reinforces this whole idea of need.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm not convinced, I mean, I'm basically on the fence about it, but the reason I'm not convinced is because lightning is such a hard thing to channel, and not that she's not powerful enough, obviously, but this whole, like, she's had this block for so long. She can't really channel properly. I think that up until this point, the only thing she's really done is heal, but she has to do it like as part of her practice. So that's really why I was kind of like, I don't know about that one.
No, I buy into that. My counter argument is that she's not blocked yet.
No, I think that the block develops as a mechanism to keep them from dying. Because I think it's said at one point that Wilders, so like 1 in 4 will survive. So the rest die.
Right.
And then of those that survive, I think most of them have some sort of block. And so my theory was that it's a block that keeps them from dying, like allows them to be that 1 in 4 through whatever mechanism.
See, I was thinking the block develops more as they learn to channel regularly, because they all have a situation in which they can channel. There's some stress or some something that causes them to channel.
Yeah.
And then as they and that protects them from being aware that they're channeling. And so the block doesn't necessarily develop until they are aware they can channel. And before that, like, need still comes into play. But no, I mean, I see what you mean, where, because I'm basing that off of Rand's journey, where need comes into play a lot in terms of why he channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he hasn't survived being a wilder yet.
Right. It just seems too easy. Like, it seemed too easy for her to be like, please, and then she gets this super thing of lightning, and then for like 5 books, she can barely like light a candle, except when she's mad, obviously, and accidentally sets Swan's tent on fire. But I mean, yeah, I mean, there's definitely evidence that it's a decent theory. Like, there's enough evidence in the book to
support it. Yeah, yeah. No, I get where you're coming from in terms of, like, she has the block, and therefore, and she's clearly not angry. And there is indications that she only heals when she gets really pissed off that her regular cures aren't working.
It makes her upset.
Right.
Yeah.
So, no, I totally buy where you're coming from, that she doesn't have the anger in her, and she has the block in place, and it doesn't make sense for her to... And Perrin's nearby, and he's a Tavira, and so maybe the coincidence just worked out. And, you know, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other times that we see her channel, and if she's angry for, like, from the beginning. And I think she like when she rubs salve on Perrin, who's been badly beaten. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure she's angry.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That
scene.
Whenever she's basically
to think of other examples,
seeing anyone hurt makes her angry, so she can always heal them.
Yeah. And she was angry at having to watch Egwene die when she was a kid, and that's how she was able to heal Egwene.
Yeah, she was angry that she thought she would have to
watch her
die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the first time Nynaeve channeled? Was with Egwene, or do you think it was?
I don't know.
I don't think we know.
We know she talks about her being sick, and then she talks about healing Egwene, but I don't know if we have...
Is it Nynaeve that tells that story?
She tells it to Moraine, also in the Eye of the World, so this is great. Moraine says, when you heal someone, there's an affinity that you develop, which kind of plot-wise fell to the wayside. But she says, was it...
It's like around footprints in air, I think it's around that area.
Yeah, she says, was it Perrin or Egwene you healed? Because you knew where we were. Exactly. Like, what hotel.
Yeah.
She was like, which one was it?
Yeah.
That's right.
I've heard that it kind of falls by the wayside. There are a few other incidents that people have been able to find where it appears a character can find another character because they've healed them. But it's never brought up again. But it does look like there are a few times where...
It's not a huge thing in the series.
No, it's not. No.
It definitely comes up a few times.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the big Eye of the World things I'd like to talk about, is there's stuff in the Eye of the World that does not really carry to the rest of the series. You know, and we've definitely brushed over that to some degree, but it's there.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. You know, I don't... do you think the Black Threads are one of them?
So, is that in reference to Rand, like, cutting off Ishmael's...
Yeah.
I never really got that. That whole sequence is so abstract.
I know it happens again with Osmodian.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never understood that. I always chalked it up to it's from Rand's perspective and he has no idea what's going on, and this is just his visual representation of what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's partially because he encounters the character in Teleron Riyadh.
Yeah.
And so, but, you know, he sees other characters in the world of dreams, and other Forsaken, and they don't have that black thread. True. It's a very odd combination of the two, sort of like, if he never ever saw another Forsaken, or, you know, if he always saw the black thread when he saw Forsaken in the world of dreams, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. Or if he never saw it, okay, that makes sense. But it's this sometimes thing, that it's there when he needs to cut them off, but otherwise it's not there. Like, that does confuse me a little bit.
I'm trying to think of something that's not like the cop-out of it's just a literary device.
And I get that it's his connection to the Dark One, and it's there to filter. You know, we only see it on the male Forsaken, so I assume it's not a true power connection, but a filter for Sidene, so that they don't get the taint.
Yeah. Oh, right, that's right, because doesn't Asmodean say, you cut off my connection to the Dark One, that was keeping me sane?
Exactly.
And, I mean, he gets blocked, like, Rand blocks him, so he can't channel, even if he wanted to, but...
Just a trickle, right?
Yeah.
That's actually Land Fear.
Oh, that's right. She comes up with this complicated weave.
Right. And that Rand, therefore, isn't sure how much Asmodean can channel at any given time.
Right.
So he's always worried that Asmodean's like faking that he's weaker than he actually is.
That's right, because wasn't it going to dissipate over time?
Supposedly, but he didn't live long enough for that to be an issue.
Sadly.
Doesn't Asmodean just disappear? Do we know what
No,
happens
it's
to
the
him?
huge Wheel of Time controversy.
Grendel,
Yeah,
no, guys, there's no
No,
controversy.
I know, Grendel
kills
killed him, but...
It was for a long time.
I don't even remember.
Well, I think the controversy was when a lot of people discussed it, and then someone asked Robert Jordan in an interview, and he was like, you guys, it's in the text, it's obvious.
It was the obvious comment that pissed everyone, that like really got everyone in a frenzy. Yeah. He was like, no, even at the point at which he died, it was obvious which character killed him. And people were like, no, it's not. Like, look at this argument we've written out. We have no clue. And in hindsight, it was pretty obvious.
I mean, that's definitely a reread level type of...
What? Can you remind me of the scene where that happens?
He walks into a cupboard and he goes, "You? No."
It's in an epilogue. Oh. It's in an epilogue.
Is it? It's the epilogue, yeah. Of book 5.
Book 5.
Oh, is it that early?
Fires of Heaven. That's because it's after Lanfear and Moraine go through the twisted door Terangrial. So Lanfear,
all these parts
is I know. So Lanfear is not a candidate,
right?
Because she's already gone through the doorway. But she was like the best candidate.
Yeah.
And Grendel just didn't make sense because she'd like hardly even been mentioned.
Right. She was
the only one left.
Yeah. She wasn't very developed at that point.
No. But now knowing what I know about Grendel, of course it makes sense that she would be the one who would take him out.
Yeah. She was a pretty awesome Forsaken.
She was like her and Demandred, I think, were the most effective Forsaken. Lanfear in the beginning, but she wasn't. She had her own goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lanfear is out for herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the whole theory about Lanfear. Is she really, really that evil? Really?
Is she any more evil than like any anyone else? Like if all you had to do was get your ex-boyfriend to take one Chodenkal and you take the other and then you own the world together, I mean, that's pretty probably call my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, there's this really good deal.
Would you like to rule the world? Check yes
It's
or
not that much bad
no.
blood there. Like,
Yeah. No, yeah, totally.
A lot of, like, Lanfear and Asmodean, a lot of their evil stuff is off-screen in the Age of Legends, and just kind of, like, you're just supposed to, you know, follow, oh, they did bad things. Like, that's the story.
Lanfear does a fair amount of bad stuff during the series.
Yeah. I'm blanking right now.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, well, like, you know, some of the characters just don't have enough screen time to do any evil. But we assume they got to whatever position of power they were in through doing some pretty awful things. You know, it's like when Halima takes out a couple of maids because they were spying on Egwene and she wanted more control. It's like, yeah, I'll just take out 2 people. Or when Lanfear cuts off a guy's head she's talking to because she gets a summons from the Dark One and he's in her way. You know, it's just casual murder. Just no actual empathy for other human beings. They're in your way, kill them, move on. Right.
Yeah, all the Forsaken are definitely evil. I'm just trying to, like, categorize them in my head.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I don't know if Lanfear... You know, I guess we had this discussion. I thought Lanfear was caught in the backlash of opening up the bore and was immediately turned, but I guess she actually turned later.
yeah, I think that's right.
But wasn't
I think it was
she
Disney, although, so-
the whole purpose of her research was to gain power and push boundaries?
Yeah, but it was also to unite men and women.
Was that her?
I thought it was
aim?
to find this extra source of power where I thought it was a more like kind of enlightened thing. Where they're like found this extra source of power and they were looking for a way to tap into it so that everyone could channel.
Yeah.
Not just Aes Sedai.
I thought it was...
Or not just the people who were born with the talent.
I thought it was just that they wanted the male and the females to work together without that having 2 separate powers was frustrating, and they wanted to both be able to use the same power.
Could have been all that.
I'll buy that.
But yeah, I mean, they were scientists. They were scientists investigating a new energy source and a new power source,
Which is not inherently bad.
No. I think in a lot of ways, like, I mean, we talk about the Manhattan Project, and I don't think anyone really vilifies the scientists.
No, nobody vilifies the Manhattan Project, just using the outcome.
Despite the fact that I think some of those scientists have gone on record to say they have a lot of guilt for their participation in that science.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of Dan Carlin's newer hardcore histories is, but he basically just talks about the A-bomb and like how that changed the world. And there's some good parts where, was it maybe Oppenheimer went to the president at the time and was like, I have blood on my hands. And the president supposedly behind closed doors said something like, never bring that man back into my office. Like, he thinks he has blood on my hands. I dropped the bomb. He just made it.
It's a tough place to be in. And then you talk about the pilot, who I'm sure,
Oh, yeah.
you know, had feelings. The person who actually dropped the bomb.
Literally
Dropped the bomb. You know, there are levels of guilt and levels of responsibility all the way up and down the chain. And I think that's true, you know, bringing this back to Lanfear. You know, she didn't do that alone. Her, you know, I know her scientific partner died in the backlash.
Forgot the dude's name.
No, I like. So going back to the Black Threads, Enigma brought up the idea that he may only see it when he's touching untainted true power. But I guess that wouldn't really work with Asmodean.
Assuming that the threads are the same.
I thought the Black Thread was the true power.
No.
I don't think it's the true power. Because we don't see the females have any of the threads. I think it's their connection to the one power, and it's filtering out the taint.
I see.
So Rand and Ishmael channel the true power. Does Cimarog ever?
No, Grendel does.
Grendel does. Okay, and I think that's it.
I'm trying to remember of another circumstance. I feel like, some of the other Forsaken, I feel like, they think about using it, and they said, like, I've used it a few times, but especially in the Third Age, I think in the Age of Legends, they all used it occasionally, but in the Third Age, the Dark One is really restricted who has access to the true power. To really his favorites, and only even Grendel, who was one of his favorites, only got a trickle.
Yeah.
But didn't who gave the fool boxes to the Aiel? Wasn't that Samuel?
I think that was Sam
Oh yeah, to the
and Grendel.
Yeah, and I think that he used some true power when he
that's right, to like demonstrate how it worked or something like that.
Something I'm not really sure. Oh, you know what? Never mind. The Watcher, Morden was there. Morden.
Yeah, he was
watching, and he was using the true power. So that was just Ishmael Morden again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was getting that scene a little mixed up in my head.
Ishmael / Morden is just constantly using the true power.
That's all he uses.
That's why he's so crazy. I mean, he's using it in the prologue.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I don't think we ever see him channel the one power.
That's interesting.
That is a good point.
Which
I had never actually thought of that.
Might be what makes him Nabliss. Nabliss might be the person who channels the true power exclusively.
So when he in Book 7, when he comes to help Rand, Rand can't.
The crossing of the Balefire
that's true power.
That's true power. So the one power crosses the true power. And that's why they undo each other, because it's actually
I wonder about
two different
Rand
powers
and the true power and the body switch and all of that so much.
I have so much to say about that in 6 more books.
I have sorry. I have a question / theory.
Go for it.
So, do you guys remember when Nynaeve is in the World of Dreams, and Egwene is like, oh, there's this Aes Sedai named Sharina, you would really like her, and Nynaeve kind of freaks out, and it's because Sharina was the Aes Sedai in Malkir in her accepted test.
That's right.
I was like convinced that was going to play a role. I'm like, that's crazy. Like, who is this Sharina person? Like, what does this mean? Because clearly, like, the accepted test it's connected to the pattern in some way that shows you a glimpse of your future. And then it never, like, really played out. And so I'm kind of like, I'm still convinced it means something. But I don't know what. Like, it's like this half-formed theory of the pattern and the World of Dreams and...
I would go simpler than that. I would say it's just in there to show that, to make you confused as to whether or not the test is real or not.
Okay, I see.
The test, there's always that uncertainty. Like, when they come out, what's the first thing they say? Like, was it real?
That's true.
And the Aes Sedai are saying, we don't know. Basically, some women go in and they may find a life they prefer and they may stay and live out that life.
Yeah.
And it may be totally real to them. And so I think this whole...
Or they are mirror worlds?
Maybe. Or maybe they only exist for as long as they're channeling, and then when they stop channeling, that person stops existing and is dead.
That could be.
Interesting.
A lot of possibilities there, but I do think that with the seeing a real person, that just makes you sort of... It's one of Jordan liked leaving deliberate mysteries in his books.
True.
And I think that's one of them. And I think that showing you a real person is his way of saying, was it real? You don't know.
Yeah.
I do wonder sometimes if even he knew. Does it matter?
No,
you can just write that and...
Yeah. Have you ever read The Lady and the Tiger?
I don't think so.
It was a short story I had to read in like 6th grade. You know, one of those doesn't really mean anything. Well, it was a short story, right? That I read for literature class. And the whole point is this guy, I think he's sleeping with the king's wife, and the king throws him in an arena, and one of two doors is going to open, and either he's going to see the lady on the other side that he, you know, gets to marry and live with for the rest of his life, but it's not his true love, who's the queen's wife, or there's a tiger who's going to eat him. And he looks up, and the queen says, "Go left." And he opens the door, and the story ends. And that's it. Like, you don't know and so the whole point of the short story is, does this love of his life, would she rather him be eaten or live out his life with another woman?
Gotcha.
And it's left deliberately
to make you think.
To make you think. And there is no right answer. The author didn't come up with an answer. And I think Jordan likes to leave some of those, I call them Lady or Tiger choices, hidden around his stories. Like, is the test real or not? He doesn't know. We don't know. The Aes Sedai don't know. There is no straight up answer.
Yeah.
Which is freaking careless of them. They're like, we're just going to keep doing this thing.
Their whole attitude towards ter'angreal is careless.
Totally.
Like, we don't know how these work. We don't know what they're supposed to do, but we can get this one effect out of them. So, sure, why not? Let's find... Hey,
kid, you want to prove yourself? Go in there.
Yeah. Jump on in. Some people don't make it back out again. What? No! Fuck you!
It's so messed up. And there's like...
Right? That would be my reaction. I quit. How about that? Going home.
I'm going to join the kin, is what's going to happen.
Totally. Dude, your initiation frat rituals are way too intense for me. I guess it's more of a sorority, though.
Well, and that's their whole point, right? You have to want it more... You have to want to be Aes Sedai more than any temptation the ter'angreal throws at you, or fear, or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I love Nynaeve's testing so much, because she leaves... Not because she loves the White Tower, but because she's like, this is the only way I can protect my people, and I have this tool, and I'm going to use it.
Yeah. I also like that she fails and then just goes ahead and opens it back up again.
Oh, yeah, it's insane.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Don't mess with Nynaeve. She breaks all the rules.
Yeah, pretty much all of them.
Kind of reminded me of the classic Pulp Fiction question, what's in the box?
No, that's from...
I don't...
7.
That's from 7.
The briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay. That's very different. What's in the box is
Gwyneth Paltrow's
Gwen's head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's in the briefcase is that...
Yeah.
There is... Tarantino never came up with something to put in the briefcase.
That's what I say when people start talking about that at a bar or something. I'm like, guys, the name of the film is Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Just... think about that for a second. That's the whole point. The whole point is to make you think about it.
I didn't even realize that until now.
Also, Samuel L. Jackson
Spoilers.
said inside the briefcase is a light bulb.
Yeah.
A light bulb.
Yeah.
That's what was actually in there.
Right. That's what produced the light that was on their faces. That's a good one. Yeah, we've been sort of rambling out here. This is what happens when we have no structure whatsoever. Like, we didn't, like, do any... normally we prep for an episode.
Yeah, we did no prep for this.
We did no prep.
Which is actually pretty cool.
It's been fun.
We've actually probably stayed about as on topic as normal.
That's a good point.
Is
That's
that a dig at how on topic we stay?
It's a lion or a woman situation. I'm leaving it up to interpretation.
Lady or the tiger?
I don't know,
Lion
man.
or
It's
woman?
late.
Does it matter if we stay on topic?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, true. Yeah, there's more room for theories. More rambling. Okay, philosophical question.
Yeah.
Eye of the world only. Who is best character?
The best character?
Best character. I
Can
world
you
only.
can you pick like a category as far as what does best mean? Best.
It's subjective. So,
okay.
like, who wins Eye of the World? Like, if it was a beauty pageant...
You mean besides Bella?
I mean, yeah, like, Enigma says Bella. That's pretty strong. That's a strong vote.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can all just, like, let's go for second place here.
Okay. Are we all voting for Bella? I know. We gotta vote for Lan.
Yeah, Jonathan says Lan. Lan's
yeah.
awesome.
Lan's kind of... But Lan really comes out more when he gets a chance to be sort of buddy-buddy with Rand and give him some of his, death is lighter than a feather.
Christine says Nynaeve.
Nynaeve, yeah.
I want to say Ishmael.
Moraine.
This is why I asked. This is awesome.
Okay, all right. Give me
Ishmael is just an awesome metal character, and the whole plot line of the Eye of the World is basically in his hands. He's manipulating these events constantly.
Yeah.
And he's in the boys' heads, and yeah, that's a strong argument.
He's an awesome character through the whole series.
What makes the heroes interesting is a good villain.
Yeah, because if not for him, they'd still be herding sheep. Matt would be milking cows.
Well, that's why I said Moraine, because I think if not for Moraine, they'd still be...
I mean, that too.
Yeah.
They'd be dead.
And she really gets to show off. She gets to stride in and be awesome and just, kick some Trolloc ass and sink some fairies and...
Make a giant wall of fire.
Right. Yeah, like, this is when she is pretty amazing.
Enigma says, without Bella, Moraine wouldn't know that Rand was the Dragon Reborn.
That's true.
That's great.
She is the first
that's
sign.
also true.
Bella's the first sign of the dragon being reborn. Oh, that's got to be a prophecy somewhere. The shaggy horse that doesn't tire.
Oh, one of my favorite pieces of Wheel of Time humor is Swan riding Bella. Because it's like, Bella is the most, like, Bella's never going to buck a rider. Like, she is the most steady character in the whole series, and Swan's like, I don't trust this horse.
Right.
She doesn't trust any horse.
No, I know,
like
but it's
that about
funny
her.
because she's, like, riding the most docile horse in the world, and she's like, they gave me a difficult horse on purpose just to make fun of me.
Even that horse.
I like that about her because I also mistrust horses. They're enormous, skittish animals that kind of scare easy, and they can get a little nervous and kill you accidentally.
Oh my god, can you
That
imagine
makes me uncomfortable.
Mandarb? Like, Mandarb could kill a man.
Yeah.
Mandar
trained
kills
to
many
I
men.
know, like,
Yeah.
on purpose. He's like...
And some Trollocs, yeah. But I think of them as big dogs. And, like, I know if a dog really wanted to, he could probably, kill me, right? Like, but they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm sure a lot of that comes from me not really knowing anything about horses.
How much exposure have you had to horses?
Like, I'm going to say 0.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever touched a horse?
Yes.
Have you ridden a horse?
Yes. But I was like really young, and I can think of like a couple of like pony rides at a county fair or something like that. And then when my parents took me a couple of times when I was a really little kid, and it was my understanding that I was given like the old horse, and you just had to sit on it, and they just like walk the trail. Like they don't.
I did that a couple of times.
But it's such a distant memory. I don't really. So now I wouldn't know what to do with a horse. Like I wouldn't know how to saddle it, or I wouldn't know how to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot of equestrian experience, but it's not. I know. I mean, it's not like an intuitive thing. Like you definitely.
Oh, see, like when I lived in Waynesboro, I lived near some horses, a bunch of different various. I'd walk the dog, and the horses would come running up to the fence, and they'd stick their nose over, and you'd pet their nose and smack them on the side in the hocks, on the shoulder, and give them a good pat, and they'd nibble on your hair and lick the dog. And I used to run back and forth, and the horse would run with me and play, you know. And I feel like I made friends with a bunch of the horses down there without like trying to ride them or anything. You know, you just scratch them where they tell you to scratch and, you know, play with them like you would any other animal. And they seem to be totally happy to do that.
They make me nervous.
They are like half a ton. You know, they're heavy animals. Half a ton is not. That's an exaggeration. They're big, and they have hooves, but dogs have teeth, birds have beaks. I love animals. I'll take just about any animal. I love the ravens. I love to because in Portland we've got ravens all over the place.
I would get a pet raven.
And
that sounds cool.
So smart. Really, really smart. And, I do have a pet. Well, I don't have a pet. I grew up with a blue and gold macaw.
Oh, I saw the picture you posted on Instagram.
Yeah. So I went home for Thanksgiving, and this bird thinks I'm its mate, and they mate for life. So every time I come near, it gets very, very affectionate and preens me and fluffs up and just, you know, really
crazy that they can remember you for that long.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
Considering you only see it like every few years or something, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I raised her from a hatchling and fed her, and she'll probably outlive me.
Wow.
They live that long?
They live 80 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And I got her when I was 10, so, you know, I mean, unless I lived to 90.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a good chance it'll outlive you.
Yeah. Certainly outlive my parents and become mine at some point. So, but you know, I have a pet parrot.
Does it just stay in a cage? But it's not like a parrot though. It's like it's pretty big. It's like 2 feet tall, not including tail, right?
2
Smaller?
feet, maybe including tail.
Including tail?
Yeah, maybe. You know, it sits on my shoulder and it's not much taller than my head.
Well, look at this picture again.
Yeah, bring up the picture. It's
big. A big creature.
Blue and gold macaws aren't small. I mean, she's a good 10 pounds. That might be, you know, I'm not actually sure. Oh man, at some point she got a little over amorous. I was petting her, like scratching her butt, and she got a little. Anyway, I've never seen a parrot orgasm before, but apparently it's.
Is that a real thing?
Her cloaca was expanding and contracting at a very fast rate.
I'm not going to ask what cloaca is.
It's their...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelsey.
I was just going to throw some biology on Patrick, but I don't know if he's...
Yeah, no, I think he needs a little bit of biology here.
So birds mate in a weird way. They've got a cloaca, which is basically like a hole, and they pass the goods through it. That's not a great explanation.
But
it gets like the point across. Okay.
Yeah.
They use that hole for everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I did know that.
Because they have like chickens lay eggs through the hole, and they poop through the hole, and they have sex through the hole, and it's all the same hole. And they pee through the hole.
Well, that's utilitarian.
Yeah.
I mean...
Hey, at least it's not anemone that only have one hole in and out. They eat and poop through the same hole.
Huh.
Yep. Sup, Brandon? Are you still listening, Mr. Sanderson?
Are you enjoying talk of bird sexuality? No. So, I mean, I grew up at some point in my house growing up. There were 16 different birds in that house.
Oh my God.
At different times?
No, all at the same time. At one point, we got up to 16 birds. My mother was a little bit of a crazy bird lady.
I didn't know that a bird person was I mean, I guess I did know it was a thing.
Yeah, no, my mom was totally a bird person. And we because we had like 2 lovebirds, 3 parakeets, 3 cockatiels, 2 blue and gold macaws.
All in like separate? What kind of a cage or what kind of a enclosure does the your bird live in?
She's got a cage, but and then a perch, and mostly she rides around on her shoulder, my shoulder. But she's got a perch, and it's on rollers. It's really just a simple like a T that she likes to sit on, and that just is in whatever social area. It's got a little catch at the bottom to catch the poop and whatever food she drops, and a bowl for her to eat and drink out of, and she just is in whatever space we're in, just sitting on her perch, hanging out. She likes to be on my shoulder, and then at night she's got a cage. Sometimes she hops off and like climbs and explores and checks everything out.
Yeah.
She's not restricted to the perch, but most of the time that's where she hangs out.
I figured birds would poop everywhere, though.
She's actually trained to poop on her perch.
Oh, well, that's handy.
Yeah, they're ridiculously smart. They're
like
not
a
hard.
box.
Yeah, they're not at all hard to train.
Awesome. Then I would love to have a bird.
There's so much work.
Birds,
Really?
they are awful. So let me get this straight. I grew up with them. I would never ever choose to purchase and have a bird as a pet. They are, like you said, Kelsey, a massive amount of work. They make a huge mess. They do shit everywhere. You can train them to shit on their perch, and Harper does, but she poops every 10 minutes or so.
That's pretty serious.
Yeah, pretty frequent. So you do have to take her back to the perch frequently, and it's like having a 2-year-old for the rest of your life. You don't want a 2-year-old for the rest of your life.
Oh no, I don't.
I don't
No,
have
it's a terrible
birds,
idea.
but I have friends who have birds, and not only are they just a lot of work, but they you have to give them fulfilled lives, and that's also not easy. They have to be stimulated, and especially the smart ones, and they hate to be alone.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that can be difficult.
They're difficult on 10 different levels.
See, here I was. I always kind of thought it would be nice to have a couple of songbirds and just have that nice sound.
Songbirds aren't quite as bad, but you need a nice big cage, and they're not that smart, so you can get away with a little less
Gotcha.
Attention. But
I have no idea. I've never had a bird.
you really don't want one. They're not domesticated animals. They are in no way designed to live with people.
Makes
They're
sense.
designed to be flying free, and it pisses them off to be stuck in a cage.
Yeah, I've only ever had dogs, so yeah.
They're domesticated.
And probably the most well domesticated of all the animals.
Yeah.
Certainly better than cats.
Isn't there an argument that they're not actually domesticated?
Yeah, there's some arguments that because I think it's because they're not they don't technically rely on human beings for survival.
Right.
I think at the point where domestic animal is truly considered domesticated is that they need human beings. So
Well, they're
cows.
only relatively recently part of our lives. When you look dogs have been domesticated the longest, and then I think it was goats, and then sheep, and then cows, and horses were in there somewhere. But there aren't that, and then pigs. Pigs were pretty early, but all of those
places.
were centuries, millennia before cats became part of our lives. Cats are ridiculously recent.
Yeah.
I don't know when cats started, but that's
Not
my
that
understanding
long
that they just kind of started hanging around.
But I mean,
and
there are
people,
populations of outdoor cats. They will never, they'll live their whole lives outdoors.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I mean, there's definitely dogs that do too, but I think it's harder for them.
That was kind of my understanding that they don't. If humans disappeared tomorrow, cats would be fine.
And wild dogs tend to revert to more of a wild phenotype. They tend to look a little bit different than domesticated dogs.
And they'll usually be in a pack of some sort.
Yes, totally.
There's some groups out there. I think is it the dingo?
Do they eat your baby?
And there's one called the such and such singing dog, some Far East, like New Zealand singing dog or some such thing. But they're basically animals that were once domesticated and then returned.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, is that true for dingoes?
I'm talking out my ass right now.
Oh, I was just curious.
That might have been one of the
Speaking
examples. I can't remember.
Can you post a picture of Timber asking for a friend?
Yeah, in the Discord?
Sure, yeah. I don't know if other people love dog pictures. I love
there's
dog
like
pictures.
a ton on your
I mean, so
personal
yeah,
Instagram.
if you look at my personal Instagram, which is just SethJJ.
Oh, on Instagram?
That, yeah.
Okay.
That's probably going to be your best, because there's lots and lots and lots. That's all it is
Seth
pictures.
posts more pictures of Timber than himself or anything else.
That's what my Instagram is for. It's for pictures of Timber, with an occasional other like thing gets spliced in there, just because like I want to put it out there. But
I'm looking at it right now.
yeah, if you look at my Instagram, it's 90% pictures of
Oh
Timber.
my gosh,
Oh, that's your mom.
so
Your mom's dogs are
cute.
huge.
What was that, Patrick?
Your mom's dogs are huge. They look like powerful animals.
Oh, they're bull mastiffs. They're gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we take a pause while we all look at pictures of dogs.
Just scrolling through Seth's Instagram.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at Timber.
Me too.
Ruben's a cutie.
That's probably the best photo of him. He's very lazy.
Yeah.
We call him the princess because, oh god, the things he's scared of. Rain, wet grass, puppies, elevators, escalators, loud noises,
Escalators I can
vacuums,
kind of understand. They make me a
Baths.
little nervous sometimes.
the groomer, the vet.
Oh, man. Anyway, we definitely went on a tangent into Dogland there. Until you get a couple of dog owners together and they start
Oh
sharing
god,
pictures of puppies.
I know
and,
like so many dogs, and I have no idea who their parents are. I'm just like, it's Lucy.
Exactly. Oh, at the dog park, we're just like, oh, I'm Timber's dad. That's my name. Like, I don't have a name. I'm just Timber's dad.
Yep. That's why I kind of hated that, like, dogs don't like Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell is up with that?
The whole, like, cats like Aes Sedai. Like, it again, that's another Eye of the Worldism. Like, I know it's in a few other places, but
Yeah,
it's really
yeah, that's
not...
true.
It's not an important part of the books, really.
No.
No, it doesn't. I mean, well, there is a Black Aja sister who plays with...
She rescues cats.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a cool way to, like, distinguish her, because I think it comes up later, like, oh, there was an Aes Sedai, the one who, like, has feeding all the cats in the city.
Right.
Or something
right.
like
And
that.
That's
like,
that's how they track her down. And it makes her memorable. It makes her, like, not just another black sister.
Of course, the crazy cat lady is Black Aja.
I know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wolves don't care about Aes Sedai, so why would dogs?
Yeah, that's true.
That's right. Yeah, the Black Tower has a bunch of dogs, and they chase around the female channelers.
I
So
think
yeah, I
that's
mean,
just one of those Jordan male versus female
right.
Wheel of
He's
Time courts.
He's trying to create this whole like opposing dynamics, and the dog people versus cat people is definitely an easy one to put out there.
I mean, I love cats too. I just can't own them because my fiance's allergic.
I am also allergic.
To cats.
Yeah,
Oh, bummer.
I've lived with them, but it's a miserable experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm either on all sorts of medication, which makes me woozy, or my eyes are itchy, or, to be honest, my butthole gets itchy.
That's weird.
It's really weird, but fucking cats, man.
I'm sorry. I just love that you've become so comfortable in your podcast role that you're just like...
It gets to that whatever point. Get it, man. technically allergic to dairy, but
right?
sometimes
Yeah.
I just do it anyway
Right?
because
God. Like, I'll be walking
it's great.
and like a cat will come up to me and I'll pet the cat, and it's not going to be a good time. I'm going to touch my eyes and I'm going to like cry for 3 hours.
I feel ya. The other day I walked into Little Big Burger and it's like, I'll have 2 hamburgers. And they were like, do you want any cheese on that? And I only hesitated for like a second. It's like, yeah, I'll take the Chev. Whatever. I don't have to work tomorrow.
Oh, I'm pretty sure there's a cat outside, like, doing a mating call.
Oh, the loud. I used to live in Brooklyn. And there was this lady. So kind of the way it worked in my neighborhood is there's like these rows of apartment buildings, but behind the apartments there'll be these open courtyards that are just kind of like a shared open space. And there was this crazy cat lady that lived in like the building directly behind my building. And she would just open the window and throw cat food out of her window into the courtyard. And so there were just all these stray cats, which also, I mean, if you live in Brooklyn, it's kind of cool that she's attracting all the stray cats because that means the rats are like on different blocks.
Oh, nice.
Because that's also a problem. Or just, you'll be walking down the street and rats will scurry out from behind a garbage can all the time.
I remember
That's
that in Philadelphia. The subway system especially had just a ton of rats in it. Just because they just hang out on the tracks and eat everything that falls down onto them.
Oh, yeah. The subways are nasty, although I do miss them. It's nice to be able to just walk into a tunnel and go wherever you want in the city. At any
It's
time.
fantastic.
$2. I'm sure it's like too much now, but
I wish Portland had a better subway system.
I've always kind of wished that they would start building one, but I sort of wonder about the water table. I mean, my basement floods and it's only like 4 feet below ground.
If they can do it in New York, which is a freaking island.
That's true. They do. Yeah, now that you say that. I mean, they have to. If the electricity gets shut off, if there's like a bad hurricane in New York, the subways just start flooding.
Right.
There's pumps that run 24/7.
Right.
And just blow the water back out into the ocean. And then
Right.
it seeps back in.
But we've got mountains here. We've got rock. We should be able to carve into that and make a decent subway system. But anyway, the whole infrastructure issue in Portland, I mean, we're a city that's growing too fast for the infrastructure that we have in place, and we're not building new infrastructure.
No, it's like really clearly not made for the amount of people that live in it.
No. So don't move to Portland. It's miserable. Go away.
We hate it. It's terrible here.
Absolutely terrible. Are you ever planning to move away?
Me?
Every day. That's all I think about.
Well, my fiance lives in Dallas, so we've been doing the long distance thing, and that's where I grew up. So I'm gonna head back there, which is a little bit ironic because my plan was to live abroad, and now I'm the kid who's gonna live back.
Go back home.
Back home,
How-
but that's okay.
And you're in
Houston.
I'm in Houston, yeah.
How
So-
far is that? How far are those away from each other?
Texas distances, so a long way.
Yeah.
It's 250 miles, and it's about 4 hours with a little bit of traffic. And by a little bit, I mean, like, it's hard to get out of Houston is the problem.
Right.
So once you're out, it's like
I
going,
gotcha.
it's just 80 miles an hour the whole way. But
Because there's nothing in between.
no, I mean, there's Buc-ee's, but
Buc-ee's?
y'all don't have Buc-ee's.
Don't know what Buc-ee's is.
Any Texas listeners? No,
Wait,
doubt it.
I
There's
feel
like
like
4
I've heard
people
of
listening.
Buc-ee's. Do they have like a famous donut or something?
They have beaver nuts.
That's it.
Yeah.
They're like pork rinds that have maple glaze or something like that.
I'm sure they have those. But
I've heard about them. I've never.
The beaver nuts are like,
They're famous
it's
apparently.
like a little crispy caramel thing. I don't know. I'm not super into them, but No, there's just there. It's a super gas station, like giant. Tons of bathrooms, every snack, hot food, poop bags for your dog, like. So it's always crazy. And then they sell like all kinds of stuff. They sell like pajamas, and there's like weird.
I've seen stuff like that in like weird towns in the South where their big store is like it's a gas station, but then they'll have like a walk-in beer cooler that's like a huge room. There'll be like groups of people in like picking different beers, and there's like a whole deli and like I don't know. In New Jersey, they have Quick Check, which is not as big. It's more like a 7-Eleven, but they also have like a deli, and
yeah,
it's just kind of like an AM PM on the West Coast, expanded, just bigger.
Virginia had it was a big red overhang. Their trucks always say, "Follow us to a tasty sandwich." I can't remember the name of the place. Sheets, yeah. I used to go to a lot of Sheets.
They have those further north, like up in Ohio, too.
Yeah.
At least that far.
Regional differences in stores is fascinating.
Isn't it?
it is.
I love those little things about going different places in the country.
So this is my drive to Dallas, which will give you like the very Texas experience. So Houston, where like NASA, the first heart surgery, like major metropolitan area, and then you go get out of traffic, and then like Buc-ee's starts advertising about 100 miles away, so they have like the Buc-ee's billboards, and then you just hit like small towns, and then about an hour outside Dallas you start getting like the do you know where you're going when you die billboards, and there's like one that's literally fire, and it's like, don't go to hell, call this number. And then there's another one.
Oh, the Christian conversion billboards.
Yes.
We don't have those so much in the North.
I would hesitate to call it like Christian, because I think it's like pretty crazy. It's not like your mainstream.
Well, just the really like fiery evangelist.
I'm telling you, cross the mountains, get out into Eastern Oregon.
Oh, out like Bend way? Probably. Yeah. I'd never get out there.
Yeah. Oh, it's out there. The billboards, it's not that. Well, you don't have a car, so you don't.
My range is kind of like,
yeah.
I go up to Seattle sometimes, but it's like Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. And if I get out of the city, it's like directly to the wilderness. I don't go to like I don't go to Bend.
Right.
I have no reason to go to town, really.
No. I think I've done some touristy stuff down there, and I've done a few bicycle tours where I've driven out there and then hopped on the bike, and that was fun. I did the whole John Day loop. That was a week of biking and camping, and the day 2, I think we hit like 100 degrees, which was just killer on the bike. It was and there was no shade on that entire ride. The Northwest is nice because there's wilderness all around us. Yeah. So we've diverged.
What are we talking about?
I don't know what we're talking about anymore. Like
I feel so bad for John. He's gonna have to he's gonna be like, what the hell do I even cut? Like everything.
This show is all after show. We just made a whole show of just like this is after
this season's after show.
This season's after show is exactly what we just made.
Cut this into 10-minute blocks and put it at the end of each episode. You can find out what happens next. And
well, we just finished season 1, and season 1 needs an after show, and that's what this is.
Okay.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We were talking at Grain and Gristle a couple weeks ago. The last time we recorded, I think. Should we call it season 1 or book 1?
Wait, are you asking me a question?
Yeah, totally.
Fuck, sorry.
When we start with book 2, are we going to call this book 2? Are we going to call it season 2? Are we just going to keep going like episode 50?
Do we go back in episodes? Or do we just continue counting in episodes?
Do we do season 2, episode 1?
That might be helpful in terms of like organizing the episodes.
Book 1, book 2?
Yeah.
Or I like season 2. I like seasons as well. I think it'll be a great resource, like if you want to go back and listen to like a certain chapter from a specific book. you can click on, like,
feel like we should
season,
go with
whatever.
Books.
Or book,
Because then it's organized by... Yeah?
But I also want to keep counting up, right? I don't want to, like... I want to say episode 52. I don't want to say season 2, episode 1. So, because most podcasts don't restart their count. Most podcasts just keep the count going.
They're named after the chapter, too. Right. For the most part, unless we do 2 chapters.
What I could do is say, Wheel of Time, episode 52, The Great Hunt, chapter 1.
Should we just do, like...
Or The Great Hunt, whatever the title of the chapter is. Or even just, doesn't even have to be The Great Hunt. It could be, TGH. Just do the abbreviations.
I think as long as there's some way to easily figure out what book you're on and then what chapter.
I think the 3-letter thing is pretty standard amongst fans, too. Like, everybody knows what EOTW is.
Right.
Yeah, I should go. I'm pretty deep into the Way of Kings, so...
Oh, are
you reading through before you start?
Yeah, so I've never read it before. It's my first time. I've been doing audiobooks at work and then reading.
I'm excited for you
at night. It's been really awesome.
Those are really good. I'm about to read through too because I don't want to read the new book it's been a couple of years since I read those. So
yeah.
I just finished the new one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How is it?
Oh.
That's plenty.
I cannot wait.
It's not everything I wanted it to be, but in some ways it was so much more. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, whenever you have expectations, there's certain things that I wanted to be in it that weren't. Because there's 7 more books. He didn't answer all my questions.
Gotcha.
But
how long is it?
So good. How long is the book? 1,200 pages.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
They're
it's
huge.
massive.
Have I ever read a 1,200-page book? I don't think I have. The Bible is shorter than that.
Probably. I mean, I have the paperback version, and it hurts my hand holding it open.
Oh, I didn't know they came out with the paperback at the same time as the hardback.
No, well, I have the paperback of Way of Kings.
Oh,
so I bought basically
I think I have that in paperback too.
It's been on my shelf to start for a while, but I've been rereading through Wheel of Time, and I went to the Sanderson signing, and I was like, I got to read these books. I'm too excited. I'm just going to jump in.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know if the live listeners are Stormlight readers. I don't want to be spoilery, but I'm I think I'm getting to the point in Way of Kings. I'm a little over halfway where I understand more about the world and the magic, and I'm definitely invested in the characters.
Yeah. I feel like we can spoil whatever on this podcast. It's the whole point anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really need to go into it other than to say it's good. The Way of Kings, when it came out, there wasn't Words of Radiance yet. And so I got to the end of Way of Kings and just started, it was one of those books where I got to the last page and just flipped right to the first page and started reading again. I didn't even get up to pause. I was just that. I wanted... The experience of reading Way of the Kings was unlike anything I'd ever really experienced before, and I wanted to go do it again. It's like when the little kid comes down the slide and is like, I want to do it again. I want to do it again. Nice. That was me with Way of Kings.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I did with Wheel of Time. I finished, and I was like, what the fuck? No. All right, book 1.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm almost jealous because the Wheel of Time, I didn't get to have that experience because it wasn't done.
I'm so glad, I didn't have to wait on any of the books. And that's why, I think I love some of the middle books so much is because I wasn't waiting on anything. So it didn't bother me.
Oh, man. I remember the years of uncertainty after Jordan died.
Oh, God. I can't even imagine
It was rough because like I didn't know if the series was honestly gonna be good.
Yeah.
It's
How
it's kinda
nervous?
crazy.
How nervous were you when you opened up Sanderson's?
Oh,
Wheel of
super
Time book?
nervous. Super nervous.
I had already surrendered to the possibility that it was going to be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of have to like.
Or
prepare
that I was just
yourself.
going to hate it, but I was like, I have to know the ending. So
The only thing
Yeah.
that I had going for me is once I heard that Brandon Sanderson was finishing it, I read everything else he'd put out at that point, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
So I had hope. And do I think he did everything perfectly? No. Do I think he did as good of a job as anyone could have possibly done? Yes.
Yeah. I think it helps that he was such a big fan too. So he's like, I would want to read it. I didn't want to write it. Like,
Right.
and I think he knows, like, he's open about the stuff that he didn't get right, which I think helps fans. Like,
Sure.
you're just like, okay, like, and it's also kind of special. Like, the characters are so special that it's like, well, in another author's hands, like, yeah, they're not exactly right.
Mm-hmm. I did read, though, that there was very little of Perrin written by Jordan,
Yeah.
and that most of Perrin in the last 3 books is Sanderson's.
And I think, I personally like the way he wrote Perrin.
I love it, yeah.
And I think it's because Perrin is his personal favorite Wheel of Time character. And so I think that that's part of, like, he got Perrin. And so people who get a little more annoyed at the representation of Matt and Nynaeve are people who are like, they got them. Like, they connected with Matt, they connected with Nynaeve. And then when they say, a comment that's different, it, like, is really striking to them when another reader...
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Egwene's your favorite. Like, it doesn't really bother you that Matt isn't exactly 100%. But I really, like, when I found out Perrin was his favorite, I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense.
And Perrin being one of my favorites, I do buy. I really like what he did with him. And,
Yeah.
the way he took his Worlds of Dreams powers and sort of turned it up to 11 in a very Brandon Sanderson way.
Oh, totally. Like, magic systems is his thing, and he cranked it up. Which is perfect, because it's like, the last battle, like, rules don't matter anymore, really.
yeah, a group of the most powerful badasses. Pretty much the whole. I mean, in the last battle, you're just following those people. Yeah, The Gathering Storm came out in 2009. By the way.
Yeah.
I think I might have waited. I think I didn't read Towers of Midnight right away.
Okay.
2005.
So
Knife
there was
of
a
Dreams.
4-year gap between the two?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so he died in 2007.
I feel like I did my read in 2006, the first one. I kind of remember easily because it was like my first real apartment out on my own.
Yeah, my first read was 95.
Yeah, geez. The first 6 books were out.
Yeah. And I think by the time I'd finished the first 6, the 7th one was either out or was about to come out.
First one came out.
So I pretty much read the first 7 in a row.
Oh, I'm totally lying. I did read these when I was a really little kid. I think I read like the first 4 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Did you
The
remember
first
anything?
few. A little.
Yeah.
I remembered a lot about the first book. But I didn't really follow through. I think I didn't have them all. At that point, my fantasy and science fiction reading was largely based on like whatever my grandfather just had. Like, that guy just read novels. Like,
Right.
yeah,
I just
he would go
may
to
have recommended the series to my 9-year-old nephew.
Nice.
yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not sure. It might be a little complicated for him. And his mom was like, yeah, he's reading like series. He's like blowing through Harry Potter. I'm like, yeah, then go for it. Like, if you can handle Harry Potter,
I think so.
this is,
I feel like it's a step up, but
not that big of a step.
no. Well, it's high fantasy in a way that Harry Potter I feel like isn't high fantasy. It's different,
It is different. It is. But
or it's somehow less complicated. And
if Harry Potter isn't quite satisfying him and he's
that make
blowing
sense?
through it really quickly, I feel like Wheel of Time is a decent place to go next.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I was around that age the first time I read.
Because, like, the concept, for a
first
couple
few
of
books.
things, the Wheel of Time is not overtly violent. The language is not extremely difficult. And the storytelling, at least on the top level, is pretty straightforward. At least
Yeah.
for the first 3 books.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
people do stuff, they go away, they come back together, there's a big battle, they win, hurrah, heroes. Like, the first 3 books are relatively easy to understand. It's not really till the 4th book that things start to spiral out of control.
branch out.
Yeah.
In a beautiful way.
Oh, absolutely. But I think the first 3 books can definitely be recommended to pretty young kids. And then if they find those satisfying, I think they will come back to it when they feel like they can handle the whole thing. You know, I'm not one to... I'm always willing to let a kid try a book. I will never prevent a kid from reading a book. Because if it's too much or too adult, they'll lose interest.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
certainly if he's gone through all of Harry Potter, like, that's a lot of book to read.
Right.
And it's kind of like, okay, if you go through the first 3 books and if you still like it, then go for it.
But I think maybe, like 12, 13 is probably the more appropriate age. You're more... Not appropriate's the wrong word. You're more likely to get it and want to keep going with it.
Yeah. And I think that you're at that age you can relate to the characters more because, I mean, like, if you're 13, Matt and Rand and Perrin are only a few years older, so...
Yeah, and the farm boy phase is, I feel like Seth was saying, it's a lot easier to understand, like, Rand likes Egwene likes Rand, but things are difficult.
Yeah.
And it's like a pretty easy
A little bit of star-crossed lovers. You don't have to deal
Yeah.
with the whole polyamorous 3-culture relationship.
but it's a lot more cutesy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And-
yeah, I mean, some of the later stuff is not, like, the sex stuff isn't super overt,
No, that
No.
isn't.
so...
At least The Eye of the World is almost entirely told from a single perspective.
Yeah.
I think that's why The Dragon Reborn is such a jarring novel for people, because you've spent most of your time in Rand's head, and then in The Dragon Reborn you almost don't see any of him whatsoever. You get a couple of glimpses, but he's
Yeah, that's where it really changes. You know, I had
gives other POVs.
full access. I was allowed to take out anything I wanted from the library. Like, my family didn't look at what sort of books. I made it out fine. I don't think that stuff should be...
Oh,
think, like you
yeah.
said-
I mean, I was always reading all kinds of stuff, and
all sorts of
it's
weird
good.
fantasy and science fiction, and
if you're the type of child that's, like, a voracious reader, then I think it's, like, good for them to learn different things by books.
Absolutely. There's nothing worse for a voracious reader than trying to, like, say you can't read this, because that's immediately what they're going to go and want to read.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And like, just let kids direct. We are very good at directing our own learning. If we want to learn it, we will. And so that's why I think exploration into books. If you get a kid who wants to read, throw books at him. And
Totally.
don't worry about the content.
Having this memory of the grandpa that I was talking about, he would go to flea markets and just buy, like, bulk novels and just read through, like, westerns and a bunch of sci-fi, and that's how I originally found the Eye of the World. And I remember him reading some Stephen King novel. I think it was It. And I was like, looked at the cover and I was like, what's that? And he was like, you shouldn't read this. And I was like, why not?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, this is like, it's going to give you nightmares. And I was like, no, it won't. No, it won't. And he gave it to me.
Did it give you
Eventually,
nightmares?
when I begged for it enough, no, I was fine.
Yeah.
I watched the movie when I was, like, 12. I was at my friend's house, and she was like, let's watch this movie. Oh, my God. It's
really
haunted
intense,
my
but-
life for so many years. I was
man.
just like lying awake, staring at the ceiling, like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
I watched it for the first time when I heard the new one was coming out. I had actually never seen the old version of it, and I found it really bad and pretty corny.
I can't imagine it as an adult. Like, as an adult, I'd probably hate it, but like, and we didn't watch the ending, and I've heard the ending is stupid. We got so scared that I was like, oh.
Well, the modern one makes a good decision where it sticks with them as kids.
Yeah.
The old one did a lot of swapping, just like the book did. It was true to the book in a way, but it was also, because it was swapping between like adults and kids, and the relationships between the adults was actually kind of creepy, and then they tried to mirror it in the kids, and the adults were like really bad 80s actors. And like, I didn't enjoy it at all. I really enjoyed, what was it, Tim Curry as it?
He was great.
Yeah, was that the
He was great, yeah.
miniseries?
Thought it was just a movie.
It was a movie.
It was a really long movie.
Was it?
Oh God, yeah.
I'm thinking of it as a miniseries.
I just watched the Dune miniseries for the first time. Have you seen
That
that?
was Sci-Fi Channel made.
Yeah.
That's the better film. I had that on DVD when I was like
Should
a
I add
teenager. I remember
Dune
that's
to
why I got
my
really into
reading
it.
list?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, you should read the first 3.
I think Seth
Without
and I
a doubt.
usually say, read the first 3. It gets crazy after that.
Beyond that, it gets a little outlandish, and there's major like 1,000-year time jumps and stuff like that. So
I like the whole lineage, like God Emperor. I liked.
Heretic.
I can't remember. It might have been like 6 or 7 that I read, and then I kind of sampled the stuff his son wrote. Like,
you should talk to John the bartender. He's really big into Dune.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that your friend you got in the series?
Yeah, I call him John the bartender. He's just the bartender at the bar I go to down the street, and I got him into it.
We should give a shout out to Grain and Gristle in Portland, Oregon.
Totally, Grain and Gristle. That's my bar of choice.
It's a really good spot if you want to eat meat and drink beer.
Fantastic. It's the place where
namesake.
if I order a burger medium rare, it actually comes out medium rare. And you know how rare that is?
Very rare.
About medium rare.
Okay, I get it.
That was bad. But no, they have like a great stew, and they have a steak. But honestly, I just go there mostly to drink because they have their
Good beers. They carry that kind of smaller brewery.
upright brewing. So they're a tasting room for upright brewing. So they generally have 4 or 5 or 6 of their beers on tap.
A bunch of you Portlanders listen to us, so go there.
Yeah, definitely. And
Mention
tell
Seth
them,
and Patrick. Maybe we'll
tell
get a
them we'll
discount.
send you. if you run into John, tell him I sent you.
Well, if I'm ever in Portland, I will go there. Which I would love to go to Portland
Yeah, Portland's a great little city.
if I had
Don't live here.
open time and money.
Terrible city. Just
Terrible
rains
city.
all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like I should explain that Portlanders have this thing where we tell people not to move here because we hate it, and it's not true.
Get out of my
Don't-
lawn.
Don't give away our secrets. Just because it's the best place in
just
the
didn't
country, and we
wanna-
don't want more people to come
At
here.
least Kelsey to understand. We can edit. You can edit that out.
All right, fair enough.
Come to
Just so she knew what we were
Houston.
talking about.
I used to live in Houston.
We
I
got
don't never want to.
hurricanes.
And
got
heat and
hurricanes.
humidity and mosquitoes and
We actually have dengue fever here.
yeah,
We got everything.
you're selling it.
If you got cancer, we got a great hospital. It's like 100,000
100,000 people in
work
Houston.
there in the med center. No, there's like 9 million.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's 100,000.
I
No.
say that's like
No,
a
just
pretty small city.
100,000
No.
people work in the medical center.
Yeah,
It's insane.
yeah. The medical
Holy
center
shit.
is a small city.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're sort of petering out here.
Yeah, I gotta go read
Yeah.
some Way of Kings.
Yeah. So let's call it a night, and guys, it's been fantastic. That's going to be a heck of an interesting episode to put out.
Well,
I want to see how John edits this. Like, sorry, John, I feel bad for your.
And in summary, there's no way to summarize that.
There's no way to summarize that.
Definitely keep
we love the eye of the
Seth's
world.
itchy asshole in there.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?